At the onset of this NBA season, Jalen Johnson, third-year forward for the Atlanta Hawks, emerged as an early dark horse favorite for the Most Improved award in this NBA season. Approximately a month into the season, this notion obviously appeared to be accurate, more than accurate. He seems to be the frontrunner, or at least is the frontrunner for me. Johnson has now transitioned into the starting lineup for the Hawks full-time since Snyder has taken over head coach duties, and he has showcased his prowess with premier defense and a strong presence on the boards, both offensively and defensively, while being able to show he can score the ball with ease. Of course, his exceptional performance was halted late in November by an injury, but when he came back, even though he was sidelined for a month, he was still the same, if not better than when he started this NBA season. It's safe to say the Atlanta Hawks have found their replacement for John Collins, and if they can find one more star that gels well with this team, they might be back to that Eastern Conference Finals ceiling that they were at just 3 years ago. During his absence, the impact that Johnson brought, it was evidently clear that they were missing it. Atlanta plummeted to the bottom of the NBA in defense, and they surely missed his versatility on both ends of the floor. It became increasingly clear that though superstar Trae Young is having a phenomenal year, Jalen Johnson has been the guy to help him uphold that and stay closer to that middle part of the Eastern Conference. There's a reason we're starting to see some DeJounte Murray trade talks, but we'll talk about that in another video. During this offseason, during the summer, I talked about Jalen Johnson in one of my breakout videos. If you haven't watched that video, go watch it right here below after this one. But we did talk about Jalen Johnson being one of those breakout guys, and I think this is just the beginning of his breakout. Now, before we hop into the video completely, like, comment, and subscribe if you are new. If you're not new, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate having you guys here. Drop a like, drop a comment about what you think about Jalen Johnson, and if you haven't watched Jalen Johnson this year, I implore you to go watch some of his highlights after you watch the breakout video after this video, if you haven't already. But let's get into this Jalen Johnson, let's call it propaganda.
Of the night, take it home. A windmill dunk.
Oh man,
that Dominique Wilkins would be proud of.
I like it.
As I mentioned before, Jalen Johnson experienced a substantial increase in playing time under coach Quinn Snyder, who took over last year after Nate McMillan was fired. This highlighted the latent talent within Atlanta's roster. Despite being a highly touted recruit from high school, Johnson fell to the Hawks later in the draft for various reasons. His potential warranted a higher selection, making it almost a no-brainer for the Hawks to pick him up when he became available. After a limited role in his rookie year behind John Collins, Johnson's playing time expanded considerably under Snyder's coaching tenure, a trend that continued into the preseason. Now, throughout the preseason, Johnson stood out as one of the NBA's most impressive players. He demonstrated excellent court running, solid perimeter defense, and efficient shooting. Johnson seemed to be the ideal complement to Trae Young on offense, filling a void that the Hawks had felt over the past couple of seasons, namely because after John Collins' wrist/hand injury, he was not the same. Currently, Jalen Johnson boasts a plus 23.9 differential and a plus 46 in expected wins, indicating that the Hawks can expect to be a 46-win team with this level of efficiency from him, and so long as it sustains. While his advanced offensive metrics are expected to improve, Johnson is already making a substantial impact on the defensive end. He ranks in the 100th percentile for points allowed per 100 possessions with negative 32.3 and effective field goal percentage allowed with negative 18%. He also impresses with an 82nd percentile turnover percentage at 2.9%. Johnson's stellar defensive performance addresses a crucial need for the Hawks that they've been missing, one that John Collins, though proficient in certain aspects, he could not fulfill for their team, and he just didn't. Now on the offensive end, Jalen Johnson not only surpassed expectations, but he has become almost elite in that department. Across the first 14 games, he maintained an impressive stat line, averaging 14.6 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 1 block with 1.1 steals per game to boot. He had an overall efficiency of 59%, and above all else, which I think doesn't quite go under the radar if you know Jalen Johnson as a player, but his 3-point percentage has been very good this year, and it stands out at 42% right now. And that's a 42% shooting about 3 threes a game. So it's not a bad 42%, it's a pretty healthy 42%. You can expect him to make about 2 out of 3 of those a game. Beyond his 3-point shooting, Jalen Johnson excels in overall offensive efficiency, ranking in the 95th percentile in effective field goal percentage and the 96th percentile in true shooting percentage among starters. His playmaking at the power forward position also adds a valuable dimension to the Hawks, particularly in fast break situations where he becomes a significant threat at the rim. Johnson's ability to run the floor independently has noticeably improved since the start of the season, enhancing the dynamic nature of the Hawks' offensive strategy thus far. Now, Jalen Johnson isn't a standout offensive rebounder. He does still create numerous second chance scoring opportunities. He averages about 1.4 offensive rebounds per game, ranking 4th on the team, and his offensive prowess has seen remarkable improvement, showcasing a diverse scoring ability, including the incorporation of a mid-range shot during this offseason and starting to use it a little bit more as of late. This added dimension makes Johnson a more versatile and unpredictable player for opponents to defend, especially being that he's very athletic, can play above the rim, and when you can add a mid-range jumper to that, it makes it hard for the defense to be able to guess what you're doing. Are you going to do a mid-range pull-up, or are you going to blow by the defender to dunk on his head? You could also shoot the 3, which we already highlighted Jalen Johnson has excelled at this year. While Jalen Johnson plays a crucial role in the Hawks' offensive success, his impact on the defensive end is arguably more vital. Averaging 1 block and 1.1 steals per game, Johnson's defensive capabilities are poised to improve even further. He currently ranks in the 78th percentile in blocks per 75 possessions and the 62nd percentile in steals per 75 possessions, measured against starters and adjusted to exclude guard. He's known for his disruptive presence on the defensive end. His toolkit extends beyond being a disruptor though, and he's able to be a point of attack defender, maybe not on a point guard, but a more playmaking 4 kind of player he guards with ease. Jalen Johnson's versatility, it also extends to his switch ability. He holds the potential to elevate this team defensively, and he already has done that at this point, especially as a point of attack defender. An impressive aspect of Johnson's defensive development is his improved anticipation of passes. It's been evident in consecutive 2 steal performances, one against the Nets and another against the Pacers, where he got 2 steals off of an interception and got an open break. Now, as the season progresses, Johnson's defensive contributions are expected to be a crucial factor in the Hawks going forward and their postseason success. Ranking in the 82nd percentile in rim contests per 75 possessions creates havoc for opponents with great contests. With 7.7 defensive rebounds per game, he ranks 84th percentile among starters, and his ability to secure defensive rebounds, initiate transition plays, and be able to still run the floor and create explosive plays for this team is a way to be a spark plug while also remaining on the floor for 30+ minutes. Despite the Atlanta Hawks starting out the season with, we'll say, some early season woes, they fell short of some early season expectations. Jalen Johnson stands out as a bright spot. He stands out as a silver lining for this team going forward and for their future. His current performance as an NBA player is still unpolished, and as we start to see Jalen Johnson continue to polish, add more tools to his tool belt as an NBA player, and just become a true vet in this league, we're going to see a very special player in this league, a player that the Hawks may eventually have to start building around if Trae Young gets traded. I have Jalen Johnson this year as my most improved winner. I'm standing on that from this point forward. There's not going to be any changes to that take, and that's simply because before the season, he had already sold me as a player. This season, as it started, as it began, even after his injury, he still kept up the same level of performance. And even games like the game against the OKC Thunder where he had 28 points, he showed me that he might be able to take over, especially as soon as his game becomes polished and he starts to become more of a ball handler and facilitator to add to his scoring bag and just versatility as a whole. And I didn't even mention the most elite part to his game. I would argue it's his bounce. It's the way he's able to play above the rim, and he's so good I didn't even need to highlight that. Most of us are going to see the highlights. Most of you have seen the highlights even on this video, but with that being said, he's such a nice player and has gotten so much better over the years that we didn't even really need to talk about his slashing ability, and that's just truly how good Jalen Johnson is. That's all I got for you guys in this one. Let me know what you guys think about Jalen Johnson, and let me know who you have as your most improved winner to end this NBA season thus far. I don't see how it's anybody other than Jalen Johnson, but if you do, let me know in the comments below. It's your boy TB with the greatest hoop stories and debates on the tube, and as always, I appreciate you guys, and I'm out. Peace.